Being great at sales is essential to your business and your career, but you and I both know that the stress of selling and dealing with constant rejection can be an emotional drain. My entire brand, No BS Selling, is based on the belief that professional sales is a skill and not a personality, and that to be better at sales takes constant refinement and a dedication to your craft. This show is for salespeople and entrepreneurs who are committed to improving their sales skills and getting better results, and are sick and tired of the BS game that often happens between buyers and sellers. Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast, and I'm your host, Walker McKay. I'll help you and your sales team make selling easier, feel less cheesy, and be more lucrative. It's time to change the rules and level the playing field between you and the people you sell to. You're already good, let's be better. Welcome to the No BS Sales School. This is Walker McKay. Today, I have as my guest one of my dear old business friends. His name is Matt Nettleton, and he is a character. And Matt is going to talk today about the anxiety of the second lockdown that all of us business owners are having and what we can do about it. Super important episode. You need to listen, pay attention, subscribe to the podcast, share it with people that need to hear this. Matt Nettleton is, like I said, is one of my old business friends. He works for Sandler Training. Matt is there's nobody else in the world like him. He's an incredible, smart, great guy, funny as hell, tells great stories. His bio says since 2003, Matt Nettleton has been a Sandler trainer in Indianapolis, Indiana. During this time, he's coached more than 225 companies in a wide variety of industries. He has helped multiple companies grow from $1 million in annual revenue to more than $10 million in annual revenue. In total, he's helped clients close more than $3.25 billion in new sales. Matt Nettleton, welcome to the No BS Sales School. So glad you're here with us today.
Thanks for having me, Walker. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So Matt, take 2 minutes and tell me, what's the story? How did you become, and you don't call yourself this, I hate to even call you humble, but you're humble enough. You don't call yourself this, but you're a badass trainer. How did you get the mindset and ability and stuff to do what you do?
So I'm an inherently lazy person. I don't like to work hard. Weird birth defect, born without a work ethic. I got into sales by accident. I'd injured myself playing college football, answered an ad that said, good money, limited effort, ended up selling vacuum cleaners door to door.
Wow.
And so I started there. I figured out something that worked. I went 36 for 36, won a scholarship as a best salesman in 13 states or in 3 states, and just kind of chugged along. Ended up 20 years later, selling residential real estate, top 2% in the world. But all of a sudden, I found myself working 80 hours a week. I was like, this is crazy. There's got to be an easier way to do this.
Yeah, fuck that.
And ended up becoming a client of Sandler Training.
Yep.
Doubled my hourly rate, made the same amount of money, worked half as much, and kind of figured, well, if I can execute it, maybe I can teach it. And so I've learned how to apply the lessons that I've gotten from the scars that I've earned and taken lessons from other people and really just translated between companies.
So it's interesting. What I love, among the things I love about you, Matt, and one of the things we have in common is that you figured out about 6 times you can't work for anybody else.
No, I'm not good at that.
It took us a while to both learn that lesson, but you and I have both kind of been through several things where we've tried to work with other, have a boss or have whatever. And it's just like, fuck it. That is not who we are. That's not the DNA that we have. And that's among the things I admire is our hard-headedness or whatever the hell it is. So tell me something. You kind of, when we talked yesterday, you said, Walker, what I want to talk about is this second lockdown and how afraid people are of it and what people can do to kind of, what's behavior activities, something that they can do to get through this to stop the anxiety. Tell me more about that. Tell me what your thoughts are.
So, COVID was on nobody's vision board for 2020.
Correct.
None of us started off going, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put the handbrake on economic activity, once, twice, 3 times. Nobody gathers as a group. Don't have Christmas. Don't celebrate Thanksgiving. By the way, 14 days will slow the curve. And here we are in week 36. And we have started really to open up. And now all of a sudden it looks like we're going to be shutting back down, and business owners are terrified.
Yep.
There's a couple things. One, we know that roughly 20% of the American population struggles with anxiety.
Is it that low? Is it that low?
Well, that's the diagnosed version, right? And so, yeah, when you think about that, 20% of America struggles with anxiety when things are good.
Right.
Well, the number one cause of anxiety is money.
Yep.
And now we're taking, at one point there were 40 million people who were kicked out of their job. Their ability to pay for their own way was taken away. Man, you want to talk about something that will accelerate anxiety.
Oh my God.
That's it. And
yeah.
so, then we started to feel like we were recovering. And now when I'm talking to business owners, they're like, hey, we spent our seed corn. We've done whatever we could to stay relevant, to stay solvent, to stay in business. And now they're going to do this again. I don't know how to deal with that.
Yep.
This is not something I can plan for. This is not something I might be able to manage. I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm hearing this not only from a little bit from my clients, but from their customers big time, right? I don't know the election. Well, it's two things. In my customers, it's the election, right? Is on one hand, the election, people are like, oh my God, end of the fucking world, what's going to happen? And then the idea of a shutdown too, that's the double whammy for people around here. And anyway, we can talk about philosophy there in a minute, but so what are you suggesting people do?
So really what I'm seeing and what I'm managing and what I'm helping my clients look at is they're really looking at the problem incorrectly. And I think there's three things that we have to look at.
Yep.
The first one is you can't be optimistic.
Yep.
Right? You can't be optimistic. What you have to be is you have to be very focused on what you can control.
Yep.
Right? If you wake up every day and you say, lockdown's over, the Rona is gone, business is roaring back, we'll be fine. At some point, you're going to get smacked with the 2x4 reality.
Yep. And people think you're a fool too. I mean, you're lying to yourself and your people if you say that. Things have got to change. Yes.
Yeah. And so we really got to start with the idea that, hey, listen, there's an external environment, right? And the external environment might be bad. It might be good. It doesn't matter because I know I can control this piece.
Yep.
Right. And there's a book by a Navy admiral that says, make your bed. Right. And the title of the book
Start every day. Yep.
Yeah. And you know what? You got to find something you can control every day that makes you a victor. That says, hey, listen, I set a goal, I achieved the goal. Now I got to do it again.
Yep.
And that's really the first thing I talk to my people about. The idea.
So what are some things that people can, like as a business owner? I know it's I'm asking a specific question about a general group, but what are one or two things that a business owner can control?
So there's a couple things. One, did you show up to work today?
Yeah.
Did you get there at a consistent time?
Yep.
Right. I mean, that's a really basic thing, but it's super important.
Yep.
Two, did you speak to a customer? Did you have a conversation with an employee? Have you spoken to a supplier? Right? You don't have to, we're not saying you got to call 79 different people, but did you have 3 phone calls before noon?
Yep. In other words, what I'm hearing you say is, did you fucking show up for work, or did you in effect, whether literally or not, curl up in a ball and just bitch and do nothing?
Yeah. I mean, the reality is we can't surrender. The only way through this is through it. There was back in 2008, which was another meltdown of the economy that we both experienced.
Yes.
There were people that we both knew who would stand up and say, I hear there's a recession. I've decided not to participate.
Not to participate. Blah, 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 blah. Yes.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yep.
Listen, I hear there's a crisis. I plan to participate aggressively.
Yep.
I plan violently and actively to participate in whatever's going on. Because if I don't take action personally to save me, there's no cavalry coming over the hill.
No, correct.
And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be simple. But it's my responsibility to control what I control.
You're right on. And that's some of the things that people just, it's the basic, it's literally showing up and doing the basic stuff. And you're right. 3 phone calls before noon, one to, a supplier, a customer, and an employee, for God's sake. Have a conversation. Be there.
Yeah, and you'll learn. And listen, I can guarantee that there are other people that are as scared as you are.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? But
Yep.
if you both focus on what you can control, all of a sudden little things get better. Mm-hmm. And you can't fix the world, but you can make your bed. You can fix a sales problem. You can help an employee. You can fix a paperwork flow problem. And that focus of control really is super, super important to controlling anxiety, right? If you think about anxiety, is you staring in as a 5-year-old to a dark basement.
Yep.
Right? It's terrifying. But you flip that light switch on and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I mean, your basement still might be terrifying, but at least you know exactly what you're walking into.
Right. Do you believe, like I do, that there's a I don't know if it's J curve or it's check mark or whatever it is, but anytime something new like this comes up, anytime there is a crisis of some kind, be that election, be that stock market crash, be that coronavirus and all this crazy shit, the first thing that happens is people panic and they say, holy shit, we're all going to die. And that's the panic part. It lasts for some period of time, typically short and violent. And then at some point, the next step is, holy shit, we're going to live. Now what I do? And so if you can skip if you can be focused on, we're going to live through this, what are the steps I need to take? I think that's also another way to start. And it begins with the behavior, right? Like you talked about.
Right. I mean, listen, whether you believe that we're all going to die, type 1 air, oh my gosh, the lion's going to eat us, we didn't notice the lion,
yep.
Or whether you believe we're all going to live, it doesn't really matter. Because in the end, we have to act as if we're all going to live at all times.
Yep.
Right? And bad things happen.
Yep.
Good things happen. But you got to keep marching. That's the thing that we all have to remember, and it's tough. It's tough because, let's be honest, we are emotional creatures driven by fear primarily.
Yep.
And when bad things happen, it's very easy to notice. And so the statement, don't be an optimist, focus on what you can control, seems really simple, but it's very difficult.
It is really difficult. I've been through a whole bunch of personal stuff in the last 3 or 4 years, or the last 55 years, as we all have, right? All ups and downs. And oftentimes what I have seen and believed were the end of me, the end of the world, the end of my family, the end of my financial situation. At the time, what I recognize I can now look back and say, that may not have been what I planned to have happen. It's not what I wanted to have happen, but some really good shit came out of that anyway. As I can look back with hindsight, and I find that with many things, not everything we can say that, but not everything is the end of the world, and it's not going to be.
Well, and you've survived 100% of your worst days ever.
Yes, and plan to continue to.
Right. I mean, and the reality is, at some point, we all skid to a stop at the end.
Yep.
Right. And we both lost parents, and that happens, and it's terrible. But you know what? That's part of the deal.
Yep.
But until then, we're going to survive a whole lot of bad stuff, and we're going to survive a whole lot of good stuff.
Yep.
And the trick is to keep going.
Yep. Keep moving.
Keep going.
So, all right. So the first thing you have was focus on what you can control. What's the next thing?
So the next thing is stop focusing on how to accomplish your goals and start focusing on why you want to accomplish your goals.
Tell me more about that.
Well, it's real easy, to get sucked into, well, this was my plan and I'm going to do it this way. And all of a sudden the world blows up and now you gotta change direction. And the example I use is I live in Indianapolis, and my dad, my mom passed away a while ago, but my dad still lives in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. And
pretty this time of year, I'm sure.
Oh, it's beautiful every time of year, right? I mean, it's prettier than it sounds. So, but every time I get on I-70, I drive for 8 hours, I get off I-70, I'm at my dad's house basically. Every once in a while, there's a wreck on I-70 and traffic gets backed up, and I don't go, well, traffic is backed up on 70. I'm not going to go to Mechanicsburg anymore. I'm going to head to Louisville instead.
Right.
I don't change my destination. I might take a detour.
Yep.
I'm still doing it for the same reason. I want to go see my dad. And I might have to change how I get there, but my purpose doesn't really change. Why I'm doing the stuff doesn't change.
How do you recommend that people really find their why? Because I hear this and I believe it, right? But you've seen Simon Sinek and all these other people that have, kind of acted like they made this shit up. How do you recommend that people actually find it?
Well, I'm not a believer that everybody has this deep, compelling, Monet-like purpose in their life that's going to, but you got to remember that we all have something that we're trying to accomplish. Dave Curlin, who we both know, came out with a statement, probably in 2003, and he said it, and I was like, well, that makes sense. And the statement was, every successful salesperson likes red sports cars. And sometimes those red sports cars are actually shoes. And sometimes those red sports cars are vacations. And sometimes they're retirement accounts. And sometimes, but we all have something that we're willing to go through delayed gratification for.
Can I tell you a story? One of my clients years ago, he's a financial planner, and he was making about $600,000 a year, which in Columbia, South Carolina, 10 years ago was really good money. And he came to me to help grow his business. And I asked him, why the hell do you think you want to, why, you're taking home 600 grand a year. Your house is paid for, your cars are paid for, your grandkids' education is paid for. Why do you want to make more money? And he said, I promised my church, I've been sending 3 missionaries to Russia every year. It costs $15,000 to sponsor one for a year. They've asked me to go from 3 to 6, and I don't want to let them down. So I need to make more money, and I'd love to send 10. And that was his why. It wasn't because he needed more things. It was because of what he wanted to be able to do.
Yeah, and so that was his shiny red sports car.
Yes.
And so what we have to realize is that the more that we can focus on the win that we're looking for, the more we will be focused on other ways to achieve our goals. Right? You don't change your destination, you change your path.
Yes.
And sometimes it has to be more, and sometimes it has to be better, and sometimes it has to be different, but you're still accomplishing what it is that wakes you up in the morning and, as I like to say, blows your hair back and gets you excited.
For a bald guy, that's a pretty good statement.
Yeah. And so, you get that, and you get out there and you go after your why, and you focus less on the troubles that your how has.
Right. Yeah, right. And everybody knows change is hard, but if we're going to get to where we want to go, we got to freaking make changes. It's going to happen. What is it? The famous philosopher Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Absolutely. But they still got to fight.
Yeah, you still got to fight in front of you. So, all right. So we're focusing on what we can control. Start focusing on our why, not on the how so much. What's another thing?
So here's the final thing, and this is one that's made a huge difference for me personally, and that's people confuse each versus all. They set goals. All right, so we all have goals that unfortunately most people write on an annual basis.
Yes.
And so we say we're going to get all of this done, and that allows us for 11 months, 29 days to feel like a failure because we haven't achieved our goals.
Yeah.
Possibly to celebrate for one day, although, only 47% of salespeople last year made goals. And
I'm
only
surprised.
13%
You mean
of sales teams.
not made them? They actually wrote them and had them. Correct? They didn't achieve them.
No. That was like 40% wrote them and had them. But of the 40% that wrote them and had them, only 47% actually accomplished them.
Ah, okay. That's higher
So
than I
we're
thought
down
it would
to
be.
like 16% of the sales forces wrote a goal, achieved the goal, and kept moving. Or I'm sorry, 16% of the salespeople. It was only 13% of the sales teams.
Wow.
That was 2019. My understanding is the number may be lower in 2020.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So think about that. Right. And what happens is goal setting becomes a demotivational process because we know we've been through it before. We set these long range targets and we're unable to hit them.
Yep.
And so we spend, entire years going, oh my God, I'm behind, rather than breaking our goals down into shorter segments, shorter sprints. Now, what I talk to my clients about is you should never hand somebody a goal or never develop a goal for yourself that's longer than 12 weeks away from now.
3 months.
3 months, baby. And so I spend the last week of March, the last week of June, the last week of September, and the last week of December setting my next goal.
I like it.
And I never go more than 12 weeks without saying, hey, how did I do against my goal? But it's even simpler than that because each of my goals gets broken down into a daily or weekly number. So one of my goals is that I like to journal in the morning. I wake up and journal. And I was a probably 70, 75% journaler. I made the decision in April 13th of this year that I was going to journal 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
But I did it because I needed to claim victory to start my day. Back to that make
your bed. Yep.
Right? So the first line of my journal every day is, today is the 204th consecutive day I have journaled. With 44 days left in the year, my goal is to journal on each of them.
I love that.
That gives me another 44 days that I will accomplish my goal before I have a cup of coffee. Now, everything after that, I can accomplish, but I can walk in every day saying, I made a choice, I hit a goal.
Love that. It's interesting. I have I used to journal and it worked, so I quit, right? There's so many things in my life, right? What I have found, and I think it's more for mental purposes than health purposes, is that I do the intermittent fasting. I stop eating at typically about 9 o'clock at night is when I'll have my last drink or whatever, or last bit of food. And then I won't eat anything until lunchtime, 12 or 1 o'clock. And sometimes I don't even eat lunch because I'm busy. But what I find is the days that I do that, which are probably 28 days out of the month, I am disciplined because I wake up and I said I've done that and I can power way through. When I have breakfast, when I give up on that, is when I freaking waffle during the day. And so it's part of the make your bed thing.
Yep, and it's focused not on beating yourself up because you didn't do it on all of them, because you can't do all of the days at once.
Right.
But if your goal is to do each of them,
that
gives you an opportunity to win each day.
And then quite frankly, if you skip one, you can go back and do each day. Yeah, you can still just start tomorrow. It starts over.
Again.
Yep.
It's always begin again, right? We keep putting periods where life puts commas.
Yep.
And that makes it hard for us to keep going. It scares the hell out of people to say, you know what? I lost yesterday, but I can win today, because now they're behind what their annual goal was.
Right.
I just want you to win daily.
And get the wins, right? Because the wins, it's dopamine, right? And it builds upon itself.
Yeah. And if you read the book Atomic Habits, what it talks about is if you make good choices, you'll build great habits. And great habits build great results.
And are better than goals.
Yep. And so the way to build habits is make choices. The way to make choices is daily.
Love that.
So it's each day rather than all days.
Matt, let me tell you a couple things I've learned from you today, and this is freaking super. I am so glad. Thanks for agreeing to come on the show. I love that you said to focus on what we can control. right? Things like show up to work at a consistent time, make 3 phone calls before noon, simple phone calls, or a conversation with an employee, with a vendor, with a customer. Super idea. Next is don't focus on how you're going to do something, focus on why it's so important. And then the how will come back to you. And then I also we're going to work on each goal, not all of our goals, and set them for 90 days at the longest. I think that is brilliant and a great strategy, not just before the second fear of the coronavirus, for God's sake, but great habits to get in for the rest of your career, right? If you want to be better, if you're committed to being better. Absolutely fantastic. Matt, how would people find you? How would people in Indiana or anywhere else in the country find you that want to talk to you about training and coaching?
So the simplest way to find me is on any social media platform. Just search Sandler DTB Indy. That's Sandler DTB, as in do the behavior, Indy.
Love it. Awesome. So that's great. No BS sales team, I hope you listen today. Please share this to people that need to hear it. I'm hearing it a bunch. I'm going to share it a bunch when it comes out. Subscribe to the podcast. Got a newsletter you can sign up for. If you go to walkermckay.com/newsletter, you can get my weekly newsletter, which will give you tips and things I'm thinking about, links to podcasts and things I'm reading. There's also a bonus if you sign up in the next 10 days that you can get. So go to the website, check that out. Let me know what you learned today. Send me an email. I'm loving the emails I'm getting from you guys with feedback. So walker@walkermckay.com. Matt Nettleton, thank you. You're a great guest and a good guy, and I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Thanks, Walker. Good to see you again.